incredible podcast. It has been taken from scent control to saddle hunting. My mind is absolutely blown. I've been sitting here for the past hour and some change with somebody who's a legend, somebody that really has curved the outdoor whitetail hunting, in my opinion. What he's done as far as scent control goes, and I mean, he has over 50 book bucks. I mean, are you kidding me? What I want you guys all to do is I want you to pause this podcast real quick. I want you to go get a notepad and a pen and really pay attention, because this is going to be one of the most informational filled podcasts you will probably hear on this platform here. Just hold on and just wait, because it's about to get good. And I am blown away. I'm not even sure where to go with this right now. But it is what it is. My week has been very fulfilled. Steven is not joining us on this podcast, sadly. I'm very upset to say that. But we had a rough day. We were supposed to have one podcast with somebody. They had backed out. Some things had come up. Then we were going to have John Eberhart this afternoon. Couldn't get a hold of him for a while. And then he had called us back, so we had to do this. But in the meantime of doing so, Steven had lost power. He had a storm come through, lost his internet. The entire grid is down in his area. So I am here by myself. So I had a little crazy of a week this week. The fishing was absolutely phenomenal. I got the chance to go and work on a different charter boat, southbound. As you guys may have already heard, John Haney, who has been with us here on the podcast, I got to cover for him and go out tuna fishing. We went 10 for 13 with the guys from the London Fire Department. Probably one of my favorite group of guys that I've fished with here in the Northeast thus far as customers on a charter boat. These guys are stand-up guys. They do a lot for the community, especially when it comes to the things that are going on in the world today. These guys are the front lines, the first responders, and I just want to thank them. And I know that they'll be listening here to the podcast here shortly. But these guys, just remember those guys, please. And as we had a big conversation about was pay it forward. Go out of your way to pay it forward for somebody else, especially in these times, guys. You see somebody struggling, man, pay it forward to them. Not everybody takes it as easy as we do, but I don't want to get into the sappy part of it. We got to enjoy it. We went 10 for 13 on yellowfin. We filled the coolers. Things are real good. Fishing is great in the offshore world. So anyways, my biggest focus now is big whitetail bucks. So this is why we had brought this podcast to you today. Before we get going here, I just want to thank a couple of people. Let's get into the sponsors real quick. I want to thank every single one of them. Get on over to rackrage.com for all of your apparel needs when it comes to the Rack Rage. If you haven't checked them out yet, get on over there, check them out. It's his and hers apparel for everybody in the household to support the hunting community. Also, bowfishingmagazine.com is also a great place for all of you bow fishermen. If you haven't checked it out, it's a virtual online magazine shipped to you monthly, right online. All you got to do is go there and subscribe. It's virtual, so you can get on there. We have a nice, beautiful Outdoor Drive podcast little page there. You can click on that. It will send you right to all of our stuff here. And that's with all the companies that are on there. Keep up to date with what's actually going on. Also, Out on the Limb Manufacturing. That is Out on the Limb, MFG.com for your shikar sticks, for your podium, for your ridge runner, for your tree stands, custom tree stands, for your reach, for the 360 camera arm. You name it, he's got it. Make sure to go and check him out. D&M Custom Arrows for anything from traditional to compound. You name it. You might even hear his sexy voice here on the Outdoor Drive podcast in the next week. I can't say you won't. I can't say you will. But you definitely will. So make sure to go check them out. D&M Custom, dnmarrows.com for all of your custom arrow needs. Broadside Camo. Use promo code door drive. $45 and save yourself some on your next item. Actually, I think, no, I'm sorry. It's $45 and you get an item for free. So if you spend $45, you get an item for free. BroadsideCamo.com. The photorealism camouflage for all of you aerial hunters. He's got a sweater. He's got the Ascender series. It's made for saddle hunters and aerial hunters. It's got a little breathable thing for your little tethered out of the back for your safety harness. So go and check them out. Wicked and Twisted Bowstrings for your custom bowstrings made by Jill herself at Trader Jan's. And even for all of you bow fishermen out there, she's making bowstrings for Oneidas. So, and all of your bow fishing bows, not just the Oneidas. So go and check her out there. WickedTwistedBowstrings.com. Use the promo code capital OUT, capital DOOR, capital DRIVE 10. So it's the initials ODD are capital in that one there. Wild Edge Inc. Wild Edge Inc., the leader in mobile hunting for your perch, your aders, your naders, your swaders, your ropes, your conducts. You name it, you can get it there, right there on wildedgeinc.com. And also, with that, they are working with Out on the Limb Manufacturing. They are now making a perch on steroids. So make sure to keep in tabs of what's actually going on there. And last but not least, Marky Mark, nor'eastergamecalls.com. And I think, you know what? Let's get him on the phone. He's got some good stuff going on. Mark, how are you, Mark?
Hey, I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
Just hanging in there, man. Nice, relaxing Tuesday evening.
Same here, relaxing in the shop.
Yeah, you're always in the shop. You can't leave that place.
No, I can't. I really can't.
Everyone's keeping you so busy, especially getting so close to the deer season.
Yeah, deer season, duck season, goose season, everything. It hits all at once. I try to get ready for it, but I can honestly say I never am.
Especially,
So
especially when it comes to, when you're building knives and then it comes into the hunting season.
yeah, I agree. Like I said, it's get pulled in every direction. I've got knives sitting on the bench and a couple custom orders to do. So yeah, it really is. It pulls both ways. And a lot of guys know I tell them up front when they order a knife. When we get into September, that's the end of it. I won't get back on the knives again until probably December or January.
Yeah. So why don't you tell everybody kind of like what's going on in the shop right now for the 2020 deer season?
Yeah, for the 2020 season, we decided together that we wanted to do something a little different, with the grunt calls. And I'm still going to do the, rubber tube, fully adjustable, go bleed the butt grunt. But I decided to go with a burl wood, which is a Honduran rosewood burl. It's extremely expensive. I did a little bartering with Gary over at Exotic Blanks and got enough to do a dozen of them. So I've got a dozen of them turned out, and as soon as I hit the website, I think pretty much half of them have sold, and I kept them the same price as the Exotic series and the Evolution series at $69 plus $7.50 for shipping.
That's
So
fair. I think it's very
yeah,
fair.
yeah. No, it's still an affordable call that's handmade by me from one end right to the other. Like I said, there's a lot of time that goes into it. Even the slide buttons are made out of Honduran rosewood. Everything's all done. So yeah, the engraved metal bands. So as long as I have lanyards, I'll be giving them out with the calls as they go, and it'll come in, of course, a Nor'easter Game Calls bag as well to store it in.
What's so special about this rosewood though?
It's a protected species now, so the only stuff you can get is the stuff that's been out there for a long time. And on average, most guys like to have it dried for 5 years before you work with it, or it'll expand and contract and have problems and cronking and checking. And it's just really hard to get a good burly rosewood. And like I said, I just got lucky knowing Gary over at Exotic Blanks and getting those from him, because you just can't walk into a lumber store and say, "Hey, give me some Exotic Blanks," out of Honduran rosewood. They're just not going to have it.
So with the rosewood, you have a bunch left of those, so they'll be able to get those on the website. And
Yep.
what else is still there? I mean, we still have the old Evolution series, also, correct?
Oh yeah, there's a bunch of Evolution series in stock. Also the Exotic series. The only difference between the Exotic and the Evolution series is the thumb stud is going to be made out of either giraffe bone or Cape Buffalo or mammoth ivory. It'll be something exotic, but they're the exact same call. It's really the Evolution series. And And I try to put, again, when you go on the website, you can look at the calls and see that there's moss in them, grass, anything I can find in the outdoors to pour in acrylic.
That's awesome. Yeah. So where can they find him?
That's going to be at nor'eastergamecalls.com.
Big,
That's NOR and then Easter, EASTER, gamecalls.com.
or they can go and harass you on Instagram also, right?
And yeah, the phone's been very busy tonight. Like I said, I did about a dozen of them. And again, that's about all I could afford to do. And I think there's going to be 6 left by the time this evening is over with. I'll try to get them on the website so everybody has a fair shot at it. Um, they're all made pretty much the same. I mean, there's a little differences here and there, but I'm going to try to get them on there and get some on the website for people to be able to purchase on there as well.
Awesome. We appreciate it, Mark.
Oh, I appreciate it. The shout out as well. Like I said, it's that time of year, and we're going to get busy.
Sounds good. So keep in touch, and go check them out at nor'eastergamecalls.com. All right, guys. Enough of the Mamba Jamba here in the intro of the Outdoor Drive podcast. Let's get underway. We are in the presence of a legend. Yes, a legend of his own time, Mr. John Eberhart, who has hunted and killed over 50 book deer here in the United States. 35 of them were in Michigan, but I will let him tell you all the stories and all the things of why and how and where and when. Let's get this show on the road right here on the Outdoor Drive.
Nice shot. Here comes a shooter. Shooter. Big buck. Stag.
All right, we are in the presence of a legend, John Eberhart. How are you, John?
I'm doing very well. Yourself?
Doing very good, man. Thanks for joining us tonight.
You're more than welcome.
We really appreciate it.
Yep. I found out you are a charter captain.
Yeah, I do a little bit of fishing.
Yeah, for what, if you don't mind me asking?
Saltwater fishing. We do a lot of striped bass, bluefish, bottom fish. I just kind of started getting into the whole tuna fishing and offshore fishing a little bit heavier. So
That sounds cool. I love fish. That's awesome.
Do you get to do a lot of fishing yourself, John?
Yeah, I live on a lake. I fish a lot. I actually had a world record steelhead in 1983.
Wow, how big was it?
It was a line class world record. It was 18 pound 2 ounces caught on 2 pound test line.
On 2 pound test?
Yeah, I used to build custom steelhead rods.
Yep.
And I was caught on an 11.5 foot Lamiglass. Or I'm sorry, it wasn't Lamiglass. It was a Loomis, G Loomis blank that I built. It was you could basically, with 2 pound test line, you could take and touch the tip. You could grab the line by the tip and spin it around. You could touch the tip of the rod to the butt.
Wow, that's incredible. What made you get into all that?
Well, there's a lot of steelhead in the Great Lakes. You know, I'm in Michigan, and I've fished steelhead since the 70s. And back in the mid 70s, there was a guy up here called Dick Swan, and he started this whole light line, 2 and 4 pound test fishing for steelhead, because you get a lot more hits because you're using lighter lines, so the fish can't see the line.
Right.
And I got into that, and he was building rods, I was building rods, and Loomis sent us each of us a blank. There was the only 2 blanks they made before they put them to market, and I tied mine with D thread. I don't know if you've ever tied a fishing rod before,
No.
but they make different diameters of thread. And D thread is a little bit thicker, a little heavier thread than Dick Swan used A thread. A thread is extremely thin. And it's just like wrapping string around your finger. The thinner the string is you wrap around your finger, the more pressure it puts on your finger. You know, like if you tied wrapped a 1/4 inch piece of rope around your finger versus a bunch of thread, the thread's going to tighten up around your finger more. So Dick's actually, because the walls of this blank were so thin, when he tied it with A thread, it actually pushed the feet of the guides through the wall of the blank. And because I used D thread, it didn't. And I still have that rod. I don't use it anymore, but that was that light line steelhead fishing with 2 and 4 was something that lasted through the mid 70s through the late 80s, and then it kind of cleared out.
And then they started coming up with fluorocarbon and all this other stuff too.
Yeah. Yep.
That's crazy. That's nuts, man. That's definitely an accomplishment in itself.
I've got the world record plaque right next to the mount in the basement. So it's kind of cool.
You're a man of many plaques. I love it. I love it. So why don't we turn this key, get this drive underway? Why don't you tell everybody who you are, where you're from, and what you do?
Okay, I am from Michigan, and I am a sales rep in the hunting industry. I've been bow hunting for 53 seasons, and in Michigan, I've taken 31 bucks with the bow that are in the record book, in Michigan's record book, and I've also taken 19 record book bucks out of state. I think I've been out of state 23 weeks. One week long hunts, and I've taken 19 Pope and Youngs. So I've got an accumulative total of 50 bucks in the record book. But what kind of on the egotistical side here, and that's off 32 different properties, by the way. So I'm not hunting a spectacular piece of property. All of my bucks have been shot on either public land or knock on doors for free permission. I don't own anything. I've never leased anything. I've never paid a dime to hunt any place. I've never hunted a relative's property. It's all knock on doors or public land, and I don't think another hunter in the country can make that statement that they've got a record book bucked off property.
I totally agree with you. I don't think anybody could say that.
Yeah, I'm pretty proud of that, and I've probably hunted. I would guesstimate 200 different properties, because when you're hunting public and just knock on doors for free, you lose property all the time. You're always losing property, and you're always trying to keep a couple pieces every year to hunt. And as soon as you kill a big buck, well, if the owner sees it, then he tells all of his relatives, and then the kids want to hunt there, and you're out. So that happens all the time.
It's got to be a pretty frustrating thing, especially when you start to put a little bit of time into it and understand it, and then the next year it's gone.
Sure, because it may take a couple years to figure out a piece of property, and then as soon as you kill a deer, that there's a good odds that you're going to lose it. I typically try to get the deer out after dark where the property owner doesn't see it. But if the property owner finds out I killed something, or if it's in the daytime where I'm taking it out, then I don't have an option. So, and yeah.
That's crazy. And so have you killed all of these from a saddle, or are they from tree stand, or?
Nope. 44 of those 50 book bucks were shot from a saddle, because I started using a saddle in 1981, and then the others are from a tree stand or from the ground.
Wow. So do you hunt a lot from the ground, or mostly all from
I hunt on the ground if the situation calls for it, like if I'm out in a standing cornfield, or if I'm in a cattail marsh, or if I'm in a big, huge area of autumn olive or a swamp where there's no trees. I'll hunt on the ground if I have to, but I don't like to. I always prefer hunting out of a tree.
Mm-hmm. And I guess with saddle hunting, do you find that you can hunt lower to the ground than you do higher?
No.
Okay.
With saddle hunting, to me, it's exactly the opposite. With a saddle, you're a lot more comfortable in a tree than you are with a tree stand. Mm-hmm. So I tend to hunt a little bit higher with a saddle than I do with a tree stand. But I think I know where you were going with that. With a saddle, you can actually probably get away with hunting a little lower, because you can keep the tree as a buffer between you and the deer. So you always have the tree trunk to hide behind. But the saddle is so comfortable and it's so safe. You can't fall out of the saddle. It's physically impossible if you're hunting out of it properly. And once you've used it a little bit, they're so safe. You tend to hunt a little bit higher. Tree stands, you get up over 20 feet, and you're standing there looking at the abyss in front of you. So it's a little scary to get up real high. With a saddle, you're facing the tree, so you've got that false sense of security in front of you. I mean, you're tethered to the tree, but the tree being there actually, once you get comfortable with the saddle, the tree there actually makes you feel more secure.
Absolutely. And the thing with the saddle that I found kind of is that you're locked into the tree constantly. From the minute that your foot leaves the ground to the minute it goes back on the ground, you're completely locked into the tree. So you don't have to worry
Exactly.
about anything.
Yep.
There's no
I've had,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I've had parents come to my workshops with their kids, and their wives won't let their kids hunt out of tree stands. They strictly want them hunting out of a saddle because they're safe. They can't fall out of the tree. Because most of the tree stand falls are when you're stepping into the stand or getting out of the stand after prior to hooking up your safety belt, or after you disattach your safety belt and step off the stand onto your sticks or whatever. But with a saddle, you're always hooked to the tree 100% of the time.
Yeah, and you don't need to worry about that. Which it's a great thing, especially being in the woods, obviously, and having to worry about falling out of the tree.
Yep. It's pretty cool. I love it. I've been pushing it. I mean, I've written 3 books, 3 bow hunting books, and I had a chapter in every single book I've written on hunting out of a saddle, and it just recently, it's just taken off like crazy ever since Greg and Ernie started Tethered. Tethered is the one that really made it take off. Trophy Line, they had a good run in the early 2000s, and then they went out of business due to problems that had nothing to do with the saddle. But they had a good run. But Tethered, with their marketing, they've just blown the whole category up, and there's a lot of people getting into it now, which is fine.
Yeah, and I think the whole saddle hunting community is like you're saying, has grown as a whole, and it's great to see. I mean, the safety and a lot of people coming up with different DIY things and just really making it. I mean, there's a lot of people that have been so diehard tree stands or whatever, and now they're going into saddle hunting. And they're like, wow, how come I didn't know about this before? And I'm one of them.
Yeah. Well, it's just not something that was out there before, and the saddle just has so many more advantages over a tree stand. I honestly, for years, I didn't know why more people that I talked about saddles or that read my books bought a saddle and tried it, because they're at least half of the deer I've shot out of the saddle, and I've probably shot 200 deer out of the saddle over, total. At least half of them I wouldn't have shot if I'd had to hunt out of the tree stand, because I can hunt bigger diameter trees. I can hunt crooked trees. I can go in and DIY. My biggest buck I ever shot was on a freelance DIY hunt. I just went in and shot a 180 incher, and it was in a tree I couldn't have got a tree stand in. So a lot of the stuff, and tree stands are cumbersome. If you're bucking through brush and stuff and carrying a tree stand on your back with your bow and your backpack, and you, with a tree stand, you've got to have some form of climbing apparatuses too. So you got sticks. It's just hard to freelance, because if you're hunting public land and knock on doors where there's a lot of hunting pressure, you're having to buck through brush. You got to go back into the crap where other hunters aren't willing to go if you want to kill a big buck. So tree stands are just not conducive for doing that.
No, not at all. It's so what made you get into the whole saddle hunting thing? Like, where did it all start for you? Because I mean, like, you were in it when it started.
I was in a sporting goods store, and I saw this conglomeration of seat belts in this poly bag hanging on the wall. And I looked at it, and it showed a picture of a dude hanging, and it was called a tree sling at the time. So I hunt out of a 2-panel system. I actually have a new signature saddle coming out in about 2.5 weeks. But anyway, I was in the store and I saw this thing, and I asked the guy in the archery department, and he didn't know anything about it. He said, I don't know what that thing is. I guess it's something you sit in like a consumer's guy facing the telephone pole. So I thought, I sat there and I thought about it. It was $100. It was $99. And I just thought about, God, you got the tree as a buffer between you and the tree. I can prep 50 trees, hunt all of them out of the same saddle for the rest of my life. I don't have to buy additional tree stands. I can hunt leaning trees. I can hunt small diameter trees. I can hunt 3-foot diameter trees. Nobody's going to steal my stand because it's in my backpack. Nobody's going to hunt out of my spot because it's it's with me. Nobody's going to tell I'm hunting in a location on public land. That's a big deal. Having somebody else put another stand up close to you. With the saddle, there's nothing in the tree. You don't leave anything in the tree, so nobody knows you're there. There's in at a destination location. Let's say you're hunting at a white oak tree, where you're going to have 4 or 5 deer come in and feed for 20 minutes. With a saddle, you set up on the opposite side of the tree, 180 degrees from your destination point, where the deer are going to feed, and you keep the tree as a buffer. So when you get a shot opportunity, you just slide slightly to the side and take the shot. With a tree stand, you have to be kicked off to the side somewhat, so when the foliage is down, you're more apt to get picked. There's just a ton of advantages for freelance DIY hunting. You're not carrying that big cumbersome thing. It's made out of fabric. It's not gonna make any noise when you adjust your weight on a metal stand. Um, there's just a lot of different reasons. I can't understand why people hunt out of tree stands, to be honest.
So from that day, you obviously bought it that day.
I bought it that day, and it took me. It was weird at first because nobody knew anything about it. Now you'd see all this stuff on YouTube, but back then YouTube didn't exist. Internet didn't exist. So yeah, I just worked my way through it. It hooked up different than the stuff does today, but it was the same concept. And I made a lot of modifications. The modifications I made are kind of what's in my Eberhart signature saddle coming out here in a few weeks. And I'd made modifications and never looked back.
It's awesome, and look what it's done for you in the deer woods.
It's there's two things in deer hunting that have totally raised my percentage of kills exponentially, and it was the first one was hunting out of a saddle. The second one was using activated carbon line descent lock clothing. Those two things totally changed my kill percentages on each per hunt.
Wow. Yeah, I want to get into the scent control after, but
Yeah.
I know I know that's a whole new rabbit hole. But going back on the saddle part of it real quick, because
Yeah.
you had said two things that kind of stuck out to me. One is prepping trees and destination point. And with that, so when you're prepping a tree, what are you doing? So do you go out in the middle of August and in the summer like everybody else? Like right now, everyone's out there and they're prepping and they're putting up tree stands and they're putting out cameras and all this and that. What do you do? I know that you don't do that. So what do you do?
Yeah, I do all that stuff. Well, I don't use cameras. Michigan is the most heavily pressured bow hunting state in the country. And when you're hunting public land here and knock on doors, you're always going to have a lot of competition. There's not very many 3.5-year-old bucks. There's very, very few. A lot of properties don't have any some years. I haven't seen a shooter buck in Michigan in 2 seasons. I go to Kansas, I'll see 10 Pope and Young bucks in a week. So what I do is I prep all my locations during postseason, and I may prep 5 to 8, maybe 10 new locations in postseason. When I say postseason, once the snow melts, so I'm looking at the sign that was left there from the previous fall. So it's usually mid-February through April. By the end of April, I'm totally done with all my location preparation for the next fall. So I may only do 5 to 10 new locations, but I also may have 20 to 30 other locations that I will have to go and visit and clean up from the new summer growth from the previous year. Clean those up, clear deadfalls out of the runways feeding the location, do a lot of, just cleanup work. So by the end of April, I'm pretty much done. And I don't use cameras because cameras, unless you're using a cell camera that comes back to your cell phone, they require visits. And a visit to a location to check a camera in a pressured area is not conducive to killing a deer there. Every visit is a negative for killing something at that location.
And as you say, it lessens the odds or the percentage of you actually killing that deer the next season.
Yes.
By doing so. And it's funny so we had set up trail cameras. We did cell cameras this year. We got a dozen of them, and we went in and set them probably a month ago. And we went into a couple different bedding grounds, and it literally took over 2 weeks for us to get we'd first get a picture. We got a ton of pictures in the first like day or so, and you could see that the big bucks had come in and they had smelt us, and they literally didn't show back up there for 2 weeks,
Yeah.
maybe even more sometimes, just before they actually showed up. We had to wait for a rain, and then they finally started to show back up on camera. But it was crazy to see how long they actually waited to get back into that area because of our scent being in there.
What state are you in?
I'm in Connecticut.
Connecticut. Yeah, that whole Northeast is pretty heavily pressured. Even though it's a tiny state, there's a lot of people that live there. So that's Massachusetts, New York, those states are all pretty heavily pressured. So the deer are pretty smart. You go out Missouri, Kansas, Iowa, those deer really aren't that sharp. And there's a lot of big mature bucks there because there's not a lot of hunting pressure, and a lot of people let bucks go.
Mm-hmm.
So you can put cameras up. When I go to Kansas, I hunt cameras. I put a camera up at every single location. I check every camera every day, and it doesn't seem to affect deer movements. In Michigan, man, if I put up a camera, I may see a buck one time on camera the first time, and that'll be it. Because they actually even visually see the camera. I mean, I'm just not going to take that chance. I set up all of my locations are at either feeding destination locations or at scrape areas. They're in transition security cover between known bedding areas, or they're at transition or terrain feature breaks where there's 2 or 3 terrain features coming to a head in one little spot. So I'm hunting in pretty destination type location spots. So I don't really need to have pictures of the deer I'm going to shoot. I know the locations I'm hunting. If there's a big buck on the property, that's where they're going to gravitate to, because that's where there's going to be the biggest culminations of doe traffic. Because obviously during the rut phase, all buck activity revolves around doe activity.
So do you mostly only hunt the rut, or do you do hunting in the early season also?
I hunt first 2, 3, 4 days of season, and then I hunt very, very little, if at all, until like the 25th of October, depending on the weather. Yeah, hunting in that October time frame, if you're in a pressured area, most of the big bucks are nocturnal after the first couple days, if they're not already nocturnal from all the other hunters' preseason scouting and location preparation. Typically, that's the case. They're nocturnal before season even opens because of all the other hunters checking their spots and prepping their locations. So, I'll hunt the first few days, and that's always going to be at some sort of a food destination location, like a mass tree or a fruit tree, because I never hunt field edges unless it's standing corn where I've got the security cover. But yeah, first few days, and then I wait till 20th to 25th, and then I hunt pretty hard for the next 2.5 weeks.
So,
our gun season opens 15th of November.
Okay, so all right, so you're hunting it very hard from the 20th of October till the start of the gun season.
Yeah, every day I have off, I'm hunting. Yep.
And then, so what are you doing in the early season then? Like, what is your strategies while you're hunting in the early season?
Well, my strategy is, let's say I have 40 trees prepped and ready to go by the end of April. And that's a very realistic number. It's always around 40 to 50. I would guess 20, maybe 25 of those are at destination feeding locations. They're going to be at either a mass tree or a fruit tree, or in a transition route with good security cover from a bedding area to a feeding location. So they're all based around food, because early season, that's what they're doing. They're eating. So what I will do, let's say I have 20 locations for early season hunting. I will, about September 20th, our season opens on October 1. About September 20th to the 25th, I will put on full clad scent lock, and I will do what I call a speed tour of all of my early season locations. Because by going in between the 20th and the 25th, typically, if there's a 3.5-year-old or older buck on the property, he's going to be rubbed out by the 5th of September. So he's going to have at least 2 weeks to 2.5 weeks of leaving sign at these destination feeding locations that I'm going to be checking on my speed tour. So I'm going to do my speed tour. I'm going to see if, let's say it's at a white oak, see if it has acorns, if they're dropping, red oaks or apple trees. Does it have apples? Because when I prep them in the spring, I have no clue if they're going to have master fruit. So I'm checking them for food production, and I'm also checking them to see if they are dropping food, what kind of buck sign is in the area. Because typically there'll be some rubs around the location. And if it's at an apple tree, it's pretty common if it's dropping apples that there will actually be scrapes there by late September, because does are eating at the apple trees, and so bucks will, the mature bucks will start, scraping the area and leaving their dominance markers.
That's crazy. So you'll actually. So have you taken a lot of deer in the early season?
I think of my 31 in Michigan, I think I've taken 5 in the first 3 days. 5 of them have been in the first 3 days of the season. Most of them have came between the 1st of November and the 14th.
Wow. So what did you do to harvest those five? Those are obviously 5 book bucks in the first couple of days.
Yeah, I've shot more than 5 bucks during the first few days, but the 5 of them that made book.
Right.
Yeah. 3 of them I rattled in, believe it or not.
Wow. Okay.
And they were, and
let's talk about that.
all 3 of them were in the mornings. Those were all morning locations. They were all in bedding areas. So 2 of them I actually, when I go in, I'm in my tree at least an hour and a half before daylight on a morning hunt. Anytime. All morning hunts, I'm walking into the woods about a half an hour to 45 minutes before daylight, and I'm in my tree and quiet an hour and a half before daylight. Especially if you're going into a bedding area or something like that. The mature bucks, they're typically in Michigan, they're nocturnal before season opens. So they'll move into the bedding area, and quite often, once they're in the security cover of their bedding area 45 minutes before daylight or so, then they feel comfortable moving around because they got all that security cover. And if something comes in, 10 or 15 minutes before daylight, like most hunters do, they'll hear it, and obviously they'll go the other direction or bed down, or they won't go that way. So I'm in the bedding areas, and these were all 3 morning hunts. 2 of the situations I actually heard bucks sparring, because during that time of year, they're sparring for pecking order, dominance. They're not doing a hard fight. They're just sparring and pushing each other. So both of those scenarios, when I heard 2 bucks sparring, once they were done, one was probably 100 yards away, and the other one was maybe 150 yards away. I just replicated the exact sparring sequences that they were doing. I'd tickle the antlers together, for 10 seconds, and then stop for 5, and then tickle them for 5 seconds. And in the mornings, it's dead calm, so they can hear for a long, long distance. So you don't have to be very aggressive and very noisy. If you're aggressive in Michigan, like you see the TV guys rattling, you'd spray every deer in the woods, because we don't have those kind of deer, and they're not used to hearing that aggressive rattling. But both of those scenarios, the big buck came over to me, and I shot him. It's kind of interesting because when you rattle, they can key in on it's almost like they got a GPS. They can key in on exactly where that came from.
It's like a turkey. It's like turkey hunting. They know exactly what tree you're sitting at.
Exactly. That's a great example. Yeah. So those 2 came in, and I shot them. One was a 10-point, and the other one was an 8-point. And then the third one, I was actually right on the kind of about 80 yards from a bedding area in a transition area of security cover. And right before daylight, there was 2 deer. I'm sorry, right after daylight, right after crack of daylight, I could see legs going through underneath some oaks about probably 80 yards away. So I did not know what they were. They were heading towards the bedding area. So they weren't coming to me. So I said, well, what the hell? I'll do a little sparring sequence and see what happens. So I did a sparring sequence, and they both stopped, and they started walking in my direction. But after about 20 seconds, stopped about 40 yards out, and they started eating acorns under one of the trees. Now I can see that they're both bucks. One was a 10 point and one was an 8 point. And they're coming together. So they lost interest, and they started walking towards the bedding area again. So now I can't rattle, because rattling is a sequence that takes several seconds. So obviously, if I did something like that, they're going to turn their head immediately, because I can see them, they can see me, and they're going to notice I'm rattling up in a tree, and they're not going to come in. And also, rattling, now they're close enough to see under the tree. If there's two bucks there, they would see them moving around and pushing each other if they were sparring. So I carry an inhale and an exhale grunt call. So I took out my inhale grunt call, which is really soft, and I turned around the other direction, and I just did one quick little short grunt, and both of those bucks turned on a dime and walked right over to my tree at 12 yards. And I shot the 10 point.
That's incredible, especially early season and in the morning, because everything that you hear about, or people always talk about the afternoon early season, because a lot of times or what I've understood is that in the early season in the morning, a lot of the times that the deer are already in the bedding areas because they're coming back early or they're nocturnal.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I was in the bedding area.
Right.
Two of them, I was physically in the bedding area. The other one, I was in the transition area, right on the edge of the bedding area. And then another one I shot here in 2014, a 154-inch 10-point. That was in the morning too. I didn't rattle him. I was just in his transition into the bedding area, right on the edge of the cattails.
Wow. And he was and do you think going in there that early, like an hour and a half or more early in the morning, is really that crucial?
100%, absolutely yes. You've got to be in there before they start their transition back to bed, because otherwise you're spooking them with your entry.
And
If you go into a bedding area, or even hunt the edge of a bedding area, and a buck, is relatively nocturnal, he's typically going to be in the bedding area at least 15 minutes to 20 minutes to a half an hour before daybreak. He's going to have moved into the bedding area, and then he feels secure. A lot of times you get in bedding areas, and there's certain parts of a bedding area that'll have some oaks or an opening or something where you can hunt. So, once they're in the bedding areas, they feel a lot more secure because they've got all that security cover. So they may still move around up until and just a little bit after daylight. Typically they don't. Typically they bed down before daybreak, and you're screwed and you just got to leave. But 5 times out of that was probably in the first one of those was in 1980. So that would have been in the last 40 years. Five bucks were in the first 3 days.
wow. And
All 3 of the ones I rattled were on day. 2 of them were on opening morning, and the other one was on the second morning.
that's crazy. It's nuts, because you see around here, like a couple of guys they'll get them in the first couple of days. And ours is like Michigan, very pressured, like you were saying. A lot of guys in and out of the woods, so on and so forth, and the scent is really, really crucial. Are you playing different winds when you're going into these bedding grounds?
No. Nope, I pay 0 attention to wind. The only time I pay attention to wind is if I'm prepping a location at a primary scrape area. Then if I have an adequate tree on the southeast or south side of the scrapes at like 15 or 20 yards, I'll prep that, because it's very common. And 2 of the bigger bucks I've shot in Michigan, they'll, in midday when they're checking scrapes, they won't actually come into the physical scrape itself and work it, but they'll scent check the scrape area from downwind. So if a doe went through there, scrape areas are always made where there's doe activity. So if a doe went through there in the morning, he could scent check it from downwind without having to actually go into the open area of the scrapes, because scrapes are always in some semblance of an opening, and he can scent check it from downwind in a security cover. So by setting up 15 or 20 yards on the south or southeast side of the actual scrapes, that gives me a 15 or 20 yard shot to the scrapes if he comes in and works a scrape. And then I also have a shooting lane south of the tree I'm in or southeast of the tree I'm in. So if he does come in at 20, 25 yards downwind of the scrape of my tree, which would be 40 yards downwind of the scrapes, I still have that shot as well. If he's coming in up to 40 yards to scent check, and they never scent check from more than 40 yards off the actual scrapes.
That's
They're-
good to know.
Yeah.
So how did you I gotta ask, how did you figure this out? Is it just trial and error? Is it something you read?
Yeah, well, I hunt scrapes a lot. I would guess over the last 35 years, at least half of the bucks I've shot were at scrapes. It might have also been at an oak tree or at an apple tree, but there were scrapes there because it was a feeding location and does fed there, so that's where the bucks put the scrapes. And I always noticed whatever the prevailing wind was, they would typically, even when they came in to work the scrape, they would usually come in from the downwind side. So yeah, that was just something out of observation. So then I started, and then two of my better bucks, another 150 some incher, and I was in a saddle. He was coming in. I thought he was coming right into the scrape because I could see him coming from this one bedding area. I was in a little transition area of security cover between two bedding areas. So he had scent checked the one bedding area, and he was taking this security cover over to the next bedding area to scent check for estrus does. And there was a scrape in the middle where it kind of pinched together, where it confined the traffic. And he was coming up out of that bedding area, coming up a little hill, and he was walking right towards the scrapes. So I'm in my saddle, and I'm behind the tree from the scrapes. I'm 180 degrees on the backside of the tree from the scrapes. Well, when he gets about 20 yards from the actual scrapes before he breaks into that opening, he turned and he went around to the east, and I could tell, oh God, he's going to swing around this scrape and he's going to check it from downwind. So he may come into it from downwind, but he's going to circle around it. So I had a shooting lane to the east. So I went 180, I grabbed my bow and I moved 180 degrees around the tree to the opposite side of the tree. So now my back is facing the scrapes because he's going to go through this shooting lane I've got to the east. Well, by the time I got in position, his butt was going through my shooting lane. So now I couldn't take that shot. So I swung back around to my original position, which was 180 degrees on the backside of the tree from where the scrapes were. And he came around and he went about 20 yards. He went about 20 yards south of me because the wind was out of the north and my shooting lane was south. And he walked right up my shooting lane to the south, walking towards the scrapes. And he walked right up and he stopped. And I'm not going to take a straight on shot. That ain't happening. He stopped right under my tree. If I would have spit, it would have hit him on the head. It was directly under my tree. And he raised his head. So he's about 20 yards directly downwind of the scrapes now, right below me. And he lifted his head and did a little lip curl, taking a sniff. And I thought, he's going to go into those scrapes because a little 8-point had came in there about 2 hours before that. This was at like 2:00 in the afternoon. This was a midday kill. And but he didn't go into that scrape. He turned around and walked straight back in the exact steps he did down my shooting lane to the south, and then he turned, and I thought, I'm not going to get a shot. I figured he was going to go straight back to that other bedding area, to the other bedding area where he was headed. And he went right back. He started swirling right back around to the east, taking the exact footsteps he came into that scrape from. He was going back to that other bedding area he just came from. And that time I swung back around the tree 180 degrees, and by the time he got through my lane again, I was ready, and I shot him in that lane.
Wow, that's incredible.
That was awesome because I had to move around the tree 3 different times.
Yeah, and
Two times.
You couldn't have done that in a tree stand.
There's no way.
You would have been blown right out of there.
Absolutely. Yes.
You wouldn't have had the shot. And do you find when you're in the saddle that you're, obviously you're able to move, but like, have you ever been seen when you're trying to move around the tree or anything like that?
I have been picked in a tree when the foliage is down by a doe, but I've I've never been picked in a tree in a saddle by a buck. No.
Isn't it crazy how I found this is like when you're in a saddle and just the angle that you're on, you kind of look like a branch, you know? So the deer, even if they do see you, they just look at you and then they go back to doing what they're doing.
Yeah,
They don't even care. Like,
yeah, and I hunt out of step. I hunt on steps. I don't use a platform. So with a platform, your body is considerably away from the tree, so you stick out a lot more. It's easier to get picked. But I usually use a ring of steps, so my legs are somewhat straddling the tree, so my body's relatively tight to the tree when I'm just sitting there. But I always move around the tree to keep the tree as a buffer, even if non-targeted deer going by. I don't want my body silhouette sticking out the side. I always move around the tree so my body's in line with the tree trunk.
yeah, and that's I also hunt out of a ring of steps. I have a platform when I'm running and gunning, but for the most
Yep.
part, I just run a ring of steps.
That's a good plan. Yep, that's a good plan.
I have a feeling, it's just when you have a preset and you have the ring of steps and you just jump up there and you just have everything, like you can literally move around the tree 360 degrees, and
Yes.
it just works. You put the heel in. I don't know what kind of steps do you use for your ring of steps.
If I'm on private land where the farmer will let me, I use spikes.
Oh, okay.
I actually drill 3/8 inch holes, and I buy 10-inch long, 3/8 diameter spikes. I buy them by the 50-pound boxes. I've probably went through 10 boxes of them, and they're 10 inches long. So I'll take a cordless drill with a Irwin speed bore bit, which actually self-taps. As soon as you get it started, it just goes by itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll drill a hole about 3.5 inches, and then I'll tap the spikes in there. So I climb up on the spikes, and I have a ring of spikes around the top because they're cheap that way.
Right.
It doesn't cost that much. But if I'm using steps, I use Cranfords. I use Cranford strap-ons on public, or the new Cranford saddle scaffold ring of steps on public. And then I use strap-ons to go up the tree. But on private land, if I'm like freelance hunting or DIY hunting or presets where they don't let me use spikes, I use screw-in Cranford folding steps to go up the tree, and I use screw-in Cranford deluxe steps at the top.
Wow.
Because the deluxe steps have a flat surface, they're more comfortable to stand on.
Now, and this is kind of a crazy question, and a lot of guys getting into saddle hunting, do you find like that there's one boot over another that's more comfortable in being in a saddle all day long?
Yeah. I wouldn't say a particular boot because I own about 30 pair of boots. In fact, I just had a boot video on my YouTube channel a while ago.
I saw it.
Oh, did ya?
This is why I asked. I asked on purpose. A lot of the questions I ask, I already know the answer, but I just try to crack it out of you in a different way. So you might think I'm some type of idiot because the way I'm asking the questions.
No, I don't.
No.
I actually figured you watched it. That's why you asked.
I watched all your videos, and I've been following you closely for a while, but the reason I asked some of the questions is I already know the answers to them, but I just wanted everybody else to get to know those answers because I think that they're very important.
Okay, early season, warm weather, it's pretty tough to beat muck or dry shod, neoprene boots. They're so light and they're so comfortable, but they do have very shallow soles. The soles are pretty soft, so you can feel your steps on them. But most people, I watch these YouTube videos, most people are kind of in a standing position when they're hunting. Mm-hmm. So in my opinion, they've got too much of their weight on their feet. When I'm sitting and when I'm hunting and sitting, my knees are kind of somewhat straddling the tree, and I'm sitting in my saddle. So well over 50% of my weight is supported by my saddle seat. Right. I don't have a lot of weight on my feet. So whatever steps I'm using, they don't bother my foot, no matter what kind of boots, because I just don't have that much weight on them. Now, when I stand up and straighten my knees to take a shot, yeah, now 80% of my weight is in my 2 feet, and I'm just leaning back into the seat when I'm taking my shot because I'm kind of in a somewhat standing position. But gum leaf, the gum leaf, I just found the gum leaves this year, so I can't say how wonderful they are for hunting because that would be a lie because I've never hunted out of them, but I can tell they're made really high quality, 85% rubber like the old Red Balls used to be.
Oh yeah.
And I've got Red Balls I've had for 40 years, and I'm still hunting out of those. So these gum leaf boots are unbelievably awesome, and they're handmade in the United Kingdom. They're just really good. But I love muck boots for early season. I've got 7 pair of muck boots, and then for late season, I use Baffin is the brand and Titan is the model. It's a pack boot that's made up in Canada. Hands down, it's the best cold weather boot out there.
That's really good to know because sometimes with the rubber boots, they when in the cold they're not the greatest.
No, if you don't have a pack boot for cold weather, your feet are going to get cold. I don't care if it's got 5 million grams of thinsulate in it. It's if you don't have a pack boot, your feet are going to get cold.
Especially in Michigan, of all places.
Well, Connecticut gets cold too. Every
True.
place in the Northeast gets cold.
This is true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So why don't we get into some scent because I know that's very crucial in your day-to-day hunting. You were talking about the charcoal lined and everything like this, and I'm very interested in it. And kind of picking your brain with it. So why don't you talk about kind of like what your scent control? What do you do with your scent control?
Well, because ScentLock owns the patent, the U.S. patent on using activated carbon in hunting clothing, nobody else can do it. So I'm not a big, everybody thinks I'm paid by ScentLock or something. I'm not. I have nothing to do with ScentLock. A lot of their stuff I don't like. But for hunting, I wear ScentLock because it is activated carbon lined, and I pay zero attention to the wind direction. But you watch a lot of these TV guys. I was just watching a show the other day. I was flipping channels, and there was a TV guy wearing a ScentLock jacket and pants, and he didn't have a freaking clue what he was doing. I don't remember what show it was. He was wearing a logo hat backwards, which stinks like hell, and his hair was sticking out, his beard was showing. And, if you're wearing ScentLock and if you want to be scent free, you've got to have the head cover with the drop down face mask. You've got to wear the gloves. You've got to wear the jacket. You got to wear the pants, and you've got to wear rubber or neoprene boots where they don't have any odor, where none of your foot odor. You can't wear cordura or leather boots because they're going to, they have seams on them, and your foot odor is going to seep out through the seams. So you just can't do a jacket and a pant and assume that's good enough. Those guys can get away with it on TV because they're hunting really stupid deer. They're hunting out west where there's a gazillion monster bucks, and anybody can kill a deer. It's like hunting in a zoo. But for people that actually are hunting deer that have a brain, if you're wearing ScentLock, you got to do it right. Out there, those deer, they're not shooting them until they're 4 or 5 years old. So all of those bucks, as they're growing up, their interactions with hunters, there's no negative consequences. They don't get shot at. So obviously, by the time they reach the kill status, they tolerate a lot more from humans because there's never been any negative consequences as they've been growing to maturity when they went by humans. So, that's just, simple knowledge, it would seem like to most people. So they can get away with a lot of stuff. Most people can't.
Absolutely. So with the scent, like when you're using, why do you like the activated charcoal so much?
Because it actually absorbs all of your body odor molecules. ScentLock got sued, and it went to court, and it took 2 or 3 years for it to go through the courts. But the court, and it was the United States District Court, actually had ScentLock send activated carbon clothing to Rutgers University. And Rutgers actually has a lab, and they had professors there, or scientists. That's all they do is they study activated carbon. Activated carbon is used in tons and tons of stuff. Every military on the face of the earth uses activated carbon in their chemical warfare suits to protect soldiers from getting killed because it stops the molecules from the chemical warfare, the chemicals from the bombs from reaching the soldier's body. It works in exactly the same way as a hunting suit does. It absorbs stuff from coming into the body, whereas carbon in a ScentLock suit is absorbing the body odors from going out into the atmosphere. So when they got sued, they sent some suits to Rutgers, and Rutgers actually tested them. And in the actual court ruling, in the dismissal of the case, It said Rutgers used 10,000 times greater the amount of odor molecules than the human body could emit in a 24-hour time frame, and the carbon absorbed 99% of it.
Wow. That's insane.
10,000 times more than a human body could expel in a 24-hour period, and anybody can look that up. That's a factual statement from the district court in Florida that dismissed the case.
So you're saying you could have the dirtiest job ever, wear scent lock, go in the woods, and not be smelled by a deer?
Correct.
That's
As long as it's on your exterior. I don't wear sunlock undergarments. There are lots of times I don't have time to take a shower when I go hunting after work. I just put on, as long as I've got on my exterior jacket, exterior pants, gloves, and a head cover with the drop down face mask. It's got to have the drop down face mask because it's got to cover your beard and your hair. Your 40% of your odor comes out of your head, hair follicles. So, but as long as you've got that, yeah, you're fine. As long as it's properly cared for. It's got to be deadsorbed in the dryer. You know, the dryer is how you deadsorb it, takes the molecules out. And then it's got to be stored in an airtight container when it's not in use. So as soon as it comes out of the dryer, it goes in an airtight container until you put it on to wear it in the woods. Once you're done hunting, you get out of the woods, you take it off, you put it back in an airtight container. About every 4 to 6 hunts, you deadsorb it in the dryer on the highest heat setting it has for about 40 to 50 minutes.
And so are you running it through the washer also?
No, you do not wash it.
Okay.
Washing it, the carbon is actually sandwiched between two pieces of fabric. So there's a layer of activated carbon, and it's like a sandwich. Okay, you got a piece of fabric, then you got activated carbon, and it comes in a layer. It comes in like a sheet almost. And then they put, for lack of a better term, like hot melt sprinkles all over it, and then they lay another piece of fabric over top, and then they apply heat to it, and the hot melt bonds the two fabrics together, and the carbon's sandwiched in between. So when you wash the suit, it breaks down that glue. So eventually, as that glue breaks down, the carbon's going to move around. And the washing does nothing to deabsorb the carbon anyway. That's got to be done in a dryer.
So that's crazy. And do you use a special face mask with it? Because you keep saying about the drop down face mask.
Well, most of their head covers come with a drop down face mask. You can buy just an activated carbon cap, like a ball cap.
Okay.
Then it has carbon in the cap itself. But if your face is exposed and your beard is exposed and your hair is coming down out of the back of the ball cap and it's exposed and your neck's exposed, that's just way too much odor. You're going to get winded. So most of their head covers come with, you can buy it with a cap where the head drop down face mask is permanently attached to it, and then you tuck it in your collar. You know, so basically the only thing showing is your eyes because it's up over your mouth. And the way the deabsorption works, because a lot of people don't know what they're talking about when they talk about activated carbon. To make activated carbon, and Sunlock uses coconut shells. That's what they use. But to make activated carbon, basically you have to heat it to 1450 plus degrees Fahrenheit while it is under pressure. That's what actually turns those materials into activated carbon. So when people say you can't reactivate carbon, that's very true. You cannot reactivate the carbon in your suit, because to reactivate it back to its pristine state, you'd have to heat it up to 1450 degrees again under pressure to get rid of all the molecules in the carbon. So you're not going to do that in a dryer. Dryers get up to about 155 degrees max, 145 to 155 degrees. But what the dryer does, it's just like concrete highways. Every concrete highway has expansion joints in it. Every steel structure bridge has expansion joints in it. Steel structure buildings have expansion joints in the steel going up the sides. Because on hot days when it's 80, 90 degrees and sunny, basically what happens is the concrete in the highways that gets hot and it energizes the molecules in the concrete, and they move. They move more rapidly. Well, when they move, that causes the concrete to expand, and that's why there's expansion joints. Same deal with bridges. The Mackinac Bridge has got several areas where there's 12-foot expansion joints in the steel. And basically, when the steel gets hot, it expands because the molecules vibrate more. They're energized. So when they energize and move more rapidly, it expands the steel, and you have to have those expansion joints. Otherwise, the concrete in the highways would buckle, and the steel in the bridges would buckle. So it's exactly the same way in a household dryer. That does that when it's 80, 90 degrees on a sunny day. So dryers get up to about 150 degrees, and what that does is it actually energizes the carbon, and it also energizes the molecules. So both of the things start vibrating, and a lot of the molecules actually break free from the bond of the carbon and escape out the dryer. So you're not going to get the activated carbon back to its pristine state, but you're going to get rid of plenty enough molecules to make it good enough for another 4 to 6 hunts.
Wow. And how long does a jacket last? Like with the carbon in it?
About 8 to 10 years with average use. So if you're a weekend warrior and you hunt 3 days a week for 3 months a year, and you properly care for it, they say about 10 years. But there's really no way of testing it unless you send it to a Rutgers. I mean, they can test it, but they just figure about 10 years is when you should probably replace a suit. So
That's crazy.
And that's a long time, actually.
Absolutely.
And that's typically if you're gonna hunt with something like, I have 3 suits, so I've got a lightweight, a midweight, and a heavyweight. So, lightweight I use early season, midweight I use, when it's 25 to 50, and then my heavyweight is when it's 0 to 30. So, so you're not wearing any one of them all the time, where you'd wear it for 10 years and you'd have to replace it. So if you're wearing 3 suits and if you're wearing them equal amounts of time each season, you don't have to buy new suits for 30 years because you're only using each one 1/3 of the season, if you follow what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally.
And to explain activated carbon, and I welcome anybody to actually research this, because you can Google activated carbon and you can read about activated carbon all day long. It's in every automobile. It's in water softeners used to use it. They use it for filtration on water. Every hospital has activated carbon pills. So people, when they swallow poison, they give them activated carbon pills, and it absorbs the poison out of their system. EMT vehicles all have activated carbon pills in them. I mean, that's activated carbon is the most absorbent substance known to man. And if you this is going to sound like a lie, but anybody can Google this and find out. If you take a 1-pound butter tub of activated coconut carbon, you know what a 1-pound butter tub is, just a little tub of butter, and you take all the interior pores of every particle of carbon in that 1-pound tub of carbon, you take all the pores and open them all up and flatten everything out and butt it up next to each other, so it's all laying on a flat surface that'd cover over 100 acres.
Wow.
That sounds like a lie, but I welcome anybody to research it.
Wow, that's insane.
Yes, that's a 1-pound butter tub, and a particle of activated carbon is smaller than a grain of sand. They're really tiny, but the porosity of them is unbelievable. They're extremely cavernous.
That's crazy. And ScentLock's the only one that holds the patent to this.
Yes.
Wow. So do you believe in like a lot of these ozones and all this other stuff, the scent crusher and all the ozone generators and all this?
I do for using it on my undergarments. I would use it on my undergarments, but I would never use it on an exterior garment, because ozone has its own odor. Right. And to me, anything that has a foreign odor in the woods is a negative to where I'm hunting. You can get away with it, in certain states. Like I've mentioned before, you can get away with murder, but If you're using it in a pressured area, you want a location to work on the merit you chose it for. You want that buck to come in naturally. So you get a big 3.5 or 4.5-year-old buck, and he smells something that's not supposed to be there. There's a really, really good chance he's going to turn around and leave, because they do not accept foreign odors.
So what do you use? So a lot of people know, maybe they don't, but you have like a mom soccer van that you use to
Yeah.
hunt out of.
Yeah.
What do you use to keep that scent free?
I plug an ozone into it a couple times during the season. Ozone works. I mean, to say ozone doesn't work, I'd be stupid to say that. I'm just saying ozone has an odor, so I will use ozone on my undergarments that I'm wearing under my scent lock,
Right.
because it's going to absorb maybe any foul odors that the ozone leaves. But I'm not going to use it on my scent lock, and I would never use it on. A lot of people will take ozone and use it on like a Sitka clothing or just any generic camouflage. And yeah, it's going to get rid of all the human odors in it. There's no question about it. Ozone machine is going to get rid of the human odors. But as soon as you put anything on, I can take a jacket, a cotton jacket, and I can put it outside for 50 years hanging in a tree. So there's not going to be any human odor in it whatsoever. As soon as you put it on, if it's a permeable suit, pants or jacket or whatever, if it's permeable, so it allows airflow back and forth through it, which cotton does, nylon does, polyester does. If it's permeable, it's not gonna be very many minutes before you're gonna start expelling your human odor through the suit because it's permeable. So it was totally scent free of human odor when you put it on, but you are emitting human odor molecules 100% of the time you're breathing. So it's not going to take long for it to permeate through there.
Yeah, and it's only going to last so long.
Yeah.
And you might as well just not even have used it at that point.
Well, it can't hurt.
Right.
If you're not using scent lock, actually using ozone, as long as ozone does break down pretty quick. So because I've used ozone machines, they sent me some when they first came out 10 or so years ago, and I used it on a pair of sneakers. But boy, oh boy, it took all the stink out of the sneakers. But man, the ozone odor was terrifically strong, but it did go away. It took about a day because it was really heavy in those sneakers, but I've also done it on clothing. And when you take something out of a tub that you've ran the ozone in, yeah, there's an ozone odor, but it doesn't take long for that odor to dissipate. But because I'm wearing scent lock as my exterior, because I totally 100% trust. I haven't paid attention to wind for 17 years. I trust the activated carbon, so there would be absolutely no reason for me to use ozone, because ozone is going to kill some odors that were in it prior, but I'm going to be permeating my human odor through it as soon as I start wearing it.
Absolutely. Well, John, I really appreciate you taking the time with us today. But before we end this, I got one question for you, and that is, what drives you outdoors?
What drives me? My car.
Yeah.
I mean, what drives me out when I'm outside? If I'm driving, I'm in a car. In my van, I mean. Boredom drives me outdoors. Work drives me outdoors. I sit here on this damn computer all day, and and I just love outdoors. I mean, let's put it this way. A lot of people, they look at deer hunting like, well, you're just out there killing meat or killing deer or whatever. You know what? You get to watch the day breaks. You get to watch, my wife's like, God, look at that sunset. I'm like, I see so many gorgeous sunsets. I've sat in trees, 2 hours before daylight and watched the full eclipse of the moon. You sit in a tree and you watch a buzzard come and land on a tree and spread its wings just after daylight, drying the dew off their wings. I mean, I've had 3 different owls try and attack my face right at dusk, because I was covered up other than my eyes, and they thought they were little critters. And, I had to swoosh out of the way because I could see them coming out of the side. And I've had eagles land on the branch I was hunting in and checking me out. So, hunting is all about nature and getting outside, I listen to some of these tree huggers and they talk about, all this anti-hunting stuff, and they don't have a freaking clue how nature works. It just blows my mind.
They don't even know what half the animals are.
Absolutely.
They're just so beautiful. It's like,
Even though they never get to see them, they're beautiful when they see them on TV.
right, exactly, 100%. It drives me absolutely bonkers. And who gives up more for conservation than those animals every single day? It's us, the hunters.
Us, absolutely.
Our
Yep.
licenses, our tags, our permits, our stamps that we buy, the waterfowl stamps, so on and so forth. I mean, we're the ones that gives for conservation, and these guys are the ones that are giving us the hard time when we're out there enjoying it more than they ever will.
They don't understand nature. They don't understand that the predator-prey does not exist anymore. We are the only predators, and we've got to keep it in balance.
That's the truth. So, John, why don't you tell everybody where they can find all of your books, DVDs? They can get more information about you.
My books and DVDs are on sale on my website, which is Deer DEER -JOHN.net, just deer-john.net, or you can just Google my name and it'll pop up. And I also started a new YouTube channel called Eberhart Outdoors, and we just posted. Actually, we've got a really decent saddle video that we posted about a week and a half ago on properly maneuvering around a tree, and we just posted one on rain gear. We had one on boots a while ago. Anyway, it's brand new. We've only done 4 posts so far, and I've got 35 shows ready to post at any time. So we're going to have a lot of shows on scent control. That's going to probably take 4 or 5 shows in succession, but that won't be till spring. But anyway, Dear John is my website. Eberhart Outdoors is my YouTube channel, and I'd like people to subscribe to it if you get an opportunity to check it out. And I also do whitetail workshops in the spring, in March and April. That's where it's a 2-day event. It's $600 per person. First day is out in the woods all day, and then the second day is in a seminar room. I do an all-day seminar. We break for lunch and stuff. But first day is out in the woods. We visit about 14 different preset locations, and I explain, this is a morning spot, this is an evening spot, this is an early season spot, this is a midday spot, this is a pre-rut location, and you get to look at entry routes. Entries are different than exits for most of the locations, and how high I get in trees, and how I use a saddle. We get in saddles, and then I have about a 2-hour presentation at the end of the in-field day for people that want to stay around and learn how to hunt out of a saddle.
That's awesome. And also, you have that signature series saddle coming out.
Oh, yeah, that's coming out through Tethered. It'll be sold through Tethered. It's due in on September 10th, so it should be right around that time frame. And there's going to be a limited amount of them on that first batch, and then there's going to be more coming in October and more in November.
So real quick, what are you doing to change it from a regular Tethered?
Mine is a 2-panel saddle. I'm not a big single panel. I'm not a single seat guy. I like to have 2 panels where I can adjust them. I can have a 6-inch seat. I can have a 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. I can have however deep a seat that I want by separating the 2 panels, because each panel is 6 inches wide. So I can overlap them, slightly overlap them. I can put one up in my lower back, but the inner panel I stays right underneath your butt. So unlike single panel seats, you can adjust the depth of the seat. It never rides up. A lot of the saddles ride up. You're always lifting your body up, pulling it back under your butt. You don't ever do that with this. And it's great for beginners, and it's great for seasoned hunters, because a beginner, if you get a saddle and it's got a shallow seat, because the seat is the seat in a regular saddle. The seat depth is the seat depth. You can't change it. So if you get something with a shallow seat, you kind of feel unsafe because you don't have anything supporting your back. So, and then if you get something with a deeper seat, like all of the trophy lines have a deep seat. The Kestrel has a deep seat. The Mantis is a relatively deep seat. So if you get something with a deep seat, then when you get more comfortable with the saddle, you can't shallow that seat up. It goes up into your lower back and it kind of goes under your thigh a little bit, which makes it too deep. Because once you get used to hunting out of a saddle, all you want it to do is cup your butt. You just want it under your butt. So you can twist at the waist. You don't want anything up above your waistline in your back, because then you can't twist at the waist to shoot behind you. It locks your upper body to your lower body. So as you get more comfortable hunting out of a saddle, you can shallow the seat up in a 2-panel saddle to however you want it. Or if you get in the tree, like I do, way before daylight, I fall asleep every morning. When I go hunting, I'll get in a tree and I'll go to sleep till daybreak, and I'll take that outer panel and I'll pull it up into my lower back, so I've got the back support, and then I just lean forward and put my head on the tree tether and fall asleep until it gets about daylight. And then once that happens, then I pull that outer panel back down by my inner panel, and now I've got a shallow seat again for hunting.
Wow. And you can do all day sits in those things then.
I've done that forever. It's definitely more. A 2-panel is definitely more comfortable than a single seat, no doubt about it.
Because everybody talks about how could you ever do an all day sit in a saddle?
It's more comfortable than a tree stand, by far.
By far.
Not even close. If you hunt out of it right, it's way more comfortable than a tree stand.
That's how I tell everybody. I say, I could sit in mine all day long, no problem. I'd rather sit in that than a tree stand any day.
Absolutely. There's a lot of guys I know. Well, when I say a lot, I know 3 or 4 that have had major back issues, and they could not hunt out of tree stands, and they can hunt out of a saddle. Chad Goth is one of them. He's a big dude, and he played football, and he had some major back issues, and he got to the point where he could not hunt out of a tree stand. And man, when he found the saddles, he just fell in love with them. He can sit forever in a saddle. You got the back support. You can adjust it up where you've got the back support.
Yeah, and that's important when being in the tree, especially for bigger guys. I was a bigger guy for a long time. And it's I could be in a saddle. They say, how do you in a saddle? I said, I don't know. I'm 280 pounds, and I'm in a saddle all day, every day. So
you are a big guy.
Yeah, I'm not anymore. but yeah, I was 280 pounds, and I hunted out of a saddle for over a season, and
wow.
I lost a ton of weight now. I'm 60 pounds down, but I feel like a ninja. In the tree, it's insane. I'm a whole new man in the tree, so I'm excited for the season.
Congratulations, man! Losing 60 pounds is a chore.
Thank you.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, and I did it honestly solely just for the fact of hunting season, just to change my lifestyle so I could, hunt better, could hike longer, could, get higher in the tree. I did it just because of hunting. So.
Bet you feel like a different person.
Oh, I can't wait. Now just to kill a giant buck because of that, I'll feel even better. So.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you, John. Well, thank you very much, man, for joining us. It's been a pleasure to be able to talk to you and kind of pick your brain, and I hope that this really helps people along, and I hope that everybody goes and subscribes to your YouTube page and kind of follows up with you and what you're doing.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
And hopefully maybe we can do it again sometime soon.
Anytime. Let me know.
Thank you, John. And for everybody else, thank you for taking the drive right here on the Outdoor Drive.